So I'm sitting in my consultation room with a couple, and one of them is talking, and it doesn't seem that the topic is particularly charged, and they're speaking quite calmly. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, I hear beep, beep, beep. And we all look around to see what it is. And it turns out that his heart rate monitor has gone above the threshold. Now, I want you to pause and really think about that. We often tell people that they should listen as though it's the easiest thing in the world. But listening can actually be really hard, and so much so that it can elicit measurable physiological responses. On the other hand, we all love being listened to. It's something that connects us. It's something that feels really good when someone listens to us. But actually doing the listening is hard, and people don't tell you that. Somehow it's taken for granted that we all know how to do this listening thing, that we have this capacity, but it's not that easy, and we need to learn this skill. If we fail to recognize how hard it is to listen, then we fail to prepare to listen, and it's really important to be prepared. Part of that preparation is being in the right frame of mind. So, first, I want you to think about the fact that whatever someone's opinion, however bad, hard, difficult it is, different from your own opinion, there is always, always a good reason for it, grounded in anything from culture to trauma. That's a really important point. Hopefully, knowing that, it will make it easier to become curious and listen. At the very least, when you're listening, bearing in mind this trauma or cultural difference that you may have, you want to be interested to learn and understand what the other person's perspective is. As we've said in episode 1, understanding is different from agreeing, so you just want to understand. But even better, if you can, Nick Isbister talks about listening generously. That's listening to their feelings, listening with your whole body, listening in a caring way. That's the gold standard. Second, we need to remember that we don't have to listen. We have a choice. If it feels like it's too much to listen, then we can walk away. That's where conversation consent comes in. So have a look at that video if you're in any doubt. It can be complicated to figure out when to walk away and when not to, and I write about that in my book and talk about it in my online course. But for now, take a look at the video on conversation consent. Ask yourself, are you ready to listen? If I'm going to say something that's going to challenge your identity, that's going to challenge something that means something really profound to you, maybe you can say something like, you know what, actually, I respect that you have a different view to me, but right now I'm not ready to listen. And you could have the conversation another time when you are ready. So that's part of conversation consent too. But if you do want to listen, stay tuned, because that's what we're going to talk about now. If you do want to listen, you need to get your system ready to listen. And by your system, I really mean mainly your emotional system. Basically, you want to be sure that you can be emotionally regulated, so not go into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn mode, and give yourself the best chance of staying emotionally regulated during the conversation. I'm going to give you some cues on how to do that, but first, let me tell you a little story. There's a story about a spiritual teacher whose student said, "I don't feel that you're giving me your full attention." The teacher replied, "I would never insult you by giving you my full attention. whenever I'm listening to you, a part of my attention is always on my internal experience. If you want to listen, it really helps to be present in your body so that you can be aware of how you're feeling and so that you can regulate your emotions so that you can be there for the other person. Now, often we don't really feel like listening at all. Sometimes when we disagree with someone, it can feel as though we're burning up inside. We just want to speak, we want to talk over the other person, and there's even this idea that he who shouts loudest or gets in first will win. This is not true. In that situation, no one is listening. Let's bust that myth. He who shouts or speaks loudest does not always win and convince the other person. Talking over the other person is not an effective way of communicating most of the time, and it's not an effective way of building a meaningful relationship. Listening can feel very intense, as we've said, because we can go into fight, flight, freeze mode. And also, as we've said, it can have physiological effects. But it's good to remember that most of the time, we're safe when we're listening. And we can always stop and walk away if it feels like too much. But listening is key. If you do manage to listen to the other person and show them that you've understood their perspective, which, as we said, is different from agreeing with their perspective, then you're likely to have better conversations and they are more likely to listen to you. Who wants to listen to someone who doesn't listen to them? So when you prepare to listen, here are a few steps. First, ask yourself what your intention is. Good intentions include, I want to understand, I want to empathize, I want to connect, I want to better communicate with this person. Notice the parts of you that are feeling anxious about listening. Is there anything you can do to help them feel less anxious and to feel more comfortable? When you feel ready, agree with the other person some guidelines about the conversations and some signals on how to stop the conversation if it feels like it's getting too much. You might want to just raise your hand, for example, and say, hey, I need to take a pause. If it feels like too much, you can always take a pause and come back later or continue the conversation another time. And remember, as we said in episode 1, there isn't just this one conversation. There are more opportunities, and you're building your skills to disagree well. If you want to stay up to date with new releases of the Disagreeing Well series, then please subscribe to UCL's YouTube channel and UCL Minds newsletter.